Hello and welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Renovators, the business advisory show for real estate professionals. I'm Chanel and this is Rex.
You got it right.
I always get it right.
This is like 10th take with
No,
Timber.
it's not. You're
So
living up to your lawyer title.
It is
You
not
fly
okay.
over.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. As the day goes on, the room is getting warmer and warmer and warmer, but that's okay. A previous guest said that he felt like he was in the hot seat. So Andy, if it gets a little hot and you start
No one knows this Andy yet.
Oh yeah, sorry. Should pound the camera. Well, our guest today is actually a great friend of ours, Rex, and he's
And a return guest.
and a return guest as well. So I feel like we can be a little bit more relaxed and candid.
We're always pretty relaxed around here. But so much has happened in this man's life over, it was 3 years ago, I think you joined us on set?
Nah, probably four.
Yeah.
4 now.
4 years ago, wow. And so much has happened in your
Yeah, a little bit.
including something I prepared earlier.
Whee! Bit of product placement. Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Excellent.
Haven't read it. Success Curious. It's in all great bookstores.
Yep.
On Amazon.
Yep.
Haven't got an Audible yet.
No, I'm hoping that a deal's going to come through, so I'll get an audiobook deal.
Yeah.
If not, I'll just bang it out, record it, and get
Can
it.
you read it to me?
Yeah, I'll come next to your bed and read it.
Andy, can we start here?
Sure.
What motivated this?
I always felt that a book was in me, but it was actually come out of a real difficult patch of my life when lots of upheaval, as you sort of alluded to before. But what it helped me to do is really understand why I exist, right? Really understand why I exist. And I think that's something that everybody in the real estate space, irrespective of your position, it's something that we all need to do more work on, because fulfillment and intrinsic motivation is something that we all strive for, that ability to be able to find energy within ourselves to rock and roll to the best of our abilities. And that thing, it nearly killed me, not gonna lie, but it was born out of a really, really tough patch. And as a result of that, and the fact that I got sort of coerced into writing it, basically its first download of me is in that book. And now
Version 1.0.
Version 1.0 is in that book. And it's really, really cool because now, and it wasn't something that I thought was going to happen or realized was going to happen, but now version 2 has very much got the space to play.
Yep.
Which is really, really cool feeling. Really cool feeling.
And we're both privileged that we call you a close friend, so we've seen what this journey was. And probably our viewers haven't experienced what we know about you. Do you want to tell us a little bit? They've probably seen you on REB, all kind of press, REIV, auctions and trainings and everything else that you do. But tell us about you.
Who is Andy Reid?
Who is Andy Reid? What was version 1.0?
Well, it's kind of weird, right? Because I think for a long, long time, especially in the real estate space, I've been like a bit of an enigma where lots of people have heard of me, like you said, but and you guys have even questioned me yourselves, being as close to me as you are. A lot of people tend to go, what do you do? Like, you know, who are you, right? They know me, but they don't know me, right? And realistically, through that, to be honest, I've really come to own the answer to that, which is I'm designed to make success more accessible. That is my DNA.
What does that mean?
So it means that I'm not the guy that is going to come, well, I will every so often, but as we all do, I'm not the guy that's going to set the world on fire with revolutionary ideas. I have this firm belief that all ideas have stemmed from ancient Greece, right? Like they do. Ancient philosophy is where all of the good stuff has come from. And so I'm just of the belief that there's no point trying to reinvent a wheel that's lasted for centuries and centuries and centuries. I'm the guy that can make it feel doable. That's me. And I'm really, really comfortable with that now. I really struggle because, you know, this whole thought leadership carry on that everybody tries to cling on to and call themselves a thought leader and all that sort of jazz. I was one of them. And now I really, really, truly understand my place, which is to take all these incredible ideas that a lot of these people put out there, but very, very few people actually tangibly get a hold of. And I'm the guy that has the intelligence to actually make sense of that and turn it into something that these guys can get a grip of. I'm the conduit between high level thinking and everybody else. And I'm really happy with being in that position now.
And when you say, Andy, that you're trying to make success more accessible, how do you break that down in the novel? And how can someone that's watching this translate that into their lives?
Simplicity is one of my biggest values. I love simple. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is Da Vinci's "Simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication." It's one of my favorite quotes of all time, to the point where I'm actually thinking of getting it tattooed. And I used to be called raw. Me and Rex have had conversations around this where I used to get called raw and actually see it as a bit of a slight. I actually saw it as a bit of a knock on my character. And it always came with the best of intentions. But my interpretation of it was I was undercooked, undone, not ready to come out of the oven yet. That sort of raw. Realistically,
Primitive. What you said is you took it as you're being primitive, but it's not what it was.
Exactly. And I used to be, that's how I used to think of it as. People used to call me raw and I'd think of it as, geez, what, I'm a caveman, right? But realistically, where I understand where I'm at now is raw means that I am absolutely open to being who I am at all times. And that's something that I'm incredibly grateful that I've grown to become. And in that book, I am self-deprecating. I am words of one syllable. I tried to use big, long words. And my publisher said, Andy, where's all the swearing? Like, we haven't had a conversation where you haven't sworn. And wasn't a slight on me. It was the fact that lots of people know the stuff. Lots of people know what to do. But very few people know who they are. And the thing is with that book, what it taught me is that although loads of people know that, there's loads of stuff that everybody's heard of, but it's me that's delivering it that makes the difference. It's who you are that people buy into. And I've finally come to own that, right? And I know that I've got a level of intellect to take incredibly complex things, incredibly complex situations, setups, structures, philosophies, and interpret it in a way that the masses can understand. I just feel that my job is to take success off the pedestal that society has put it on via social media. I don't blame social media because it's the human's use of it that's made it do what it's done. I think that loads of people are looking at the few up there and feeling like they are just so far away from it, when in fact, they're really not that far off. And it's just really me trying to help connect the dots between the many and the success that I believe everybody deserves a piece of.
You've titled it Success Curious, and I know a big part of your own podcast is you always ask the guest, what does success mean to you, or how do you define success? So I want to pose that question to you. You've written a book on it. You ask the question a lot. How do you define success?
A successful human for me is a human in flow. The end. And why by flow? So we're referring to flow state, right?
Yeah.
And a human in flow is someone that has their outcomes aligned with their values and also aligned with their purpose. It's when everything is all firing in the same direction. It's something that some people will experience fleetingly. I'm lucky in the sense that through the craft of auctioneering, I get to feel that on a regular basis, which is why I've become a lot more educated around it, because I've had more time to experience it and therefore dissect it. Yeah. So for me, being able to think and act freely because everything is in alignment is just the best. And so, and I have lots of people on the show talk about, and they give brilliant answers, incredible answers. But again, I like simple, human in flow. If you can
What happens if your flow is off? What would you advise someone if the flow is not going to plan? The flow is, part of the flow is not aligned.
People can see that as a worry, as a warning sign. I actually see that as an opportunity. If you feel when you're in flow, it's just an intangible feeling where everything's just happening, right? It all feels easy, right? And when it doesn't feel easy, the opportunity is there because your body, your brain, your heart, your soul, something's telling you that something's not in alignment. And if you can tune into that and understand when something's not in flow, it makes your decision making around the choices you make and the things you take on a lot more straightforward. I used to have this constant battle of heart versus head, where head would be thinking short-term economics, for example, short-term financial gain, thinking about fixing the short term. But my heart, my soul was always sort of going, look, no, I'm not sure, I don't know. And regret only ever comes from brain-based decisions. When they're a heart-based decision, even if it goes wrong, it feels more real. And because it feels more real to you and you feel a lot less guilt and a lot less regret around it, it's way easier to evolve as a human being off the back of it. Brain-based decisions generally are harder to come back from because you feel like you should have done something else. But your brain's going now. But your brain's a natural defense mechanism. Through that, another thing that I did through that, I became a huge geek. Well, I'm a geek anyway, but I became a huge geek around that. I've read so many psychological studies and university papers and surveys and all this sort of stuff around all this sort of thing. And although there's lots of people that commoditize it these days, there was an incredible boom of psychological work that was done in the early 70s around self-determination and self-efficacy. So, self-belief. And lots of reviews and studies done around that in that sort of between 1971 to 1975 that stand the test of time. And they're really, really interesting. And if you can just dig back a little bit, because the problem is with the way that success is broadcast these days is because it is commoditized, a lot of people that are broadcasting it can't give away the entire game because otherwise people will stop paying for it. Right? That's the simple truth of a capitalist society is you can't give away everything because therefore, why would you need to pay for it if I give you everything, right? I'm still going to need to have you need me. My accountant probably hates me for it, but I don't really care. I don't really care. So that's why I'm stripping it back and saying, right, you've got all these fancy people that are doing all these fancy things that look incredibly fancy. You learn this stuff properly. You won't need a cat video to motivate you. Right? You won't need any of that. And when you're not in alignment, you don't feel in flow. It's not to say that everything's easy when you're in flow because nothing that's any good nothing that was ever worth having was ever easy. But when you're in flow, it goes from being difficult to just being a challenge, difficult to opportunity. And that's what this is all.
It doesn't feel like work when you're.
But part of flow, Andy, and maybe because I, as part of my role, we meet people all the time that are in somewhat difficult situations. They're in, say, a crossroad. A part of your flow and having that flow state is having purpose. What advice do you have to someone that potentially hasn't found their purpose yet or doesn't know what their purpose is?
It's a really difficult one. Being completely upfront, I haven't been able to articulate my purpose until very recently. Like, it's taken me nearly 41 years to work that one out. And it's not to say that it can't be done quicker than that. It's just the problem that I had was because, it's going to sound arrogant, I don't mean it to be. Whenever I've turned my hand to something, I've generally been okay at it, right? And that can be a blessing and a curse because it's a blessing in the sense that you just crack on and do stuff. But it's a curse because of the fact that you get confused because I would much rather be amazing at one thing and crap at a whole bunch of other things. And a lot of people that you will talk to will be in a couple of different directions or at a crossroads where they've done a few different things and they're not really that sure and they've got confused with themselves because of the fact they've not had a chance to just be still and really listen to their DNA. And I think purpose, the precursor to purpose is understanding your values from a DNA level. None of this surface level nonsense. None of it. None of this integrity, transparency nonsense. For me, values at their core, they should be the litmus test that I've sort of come up with at 2:30 a.m. is you should be able to write your 3 to 5 value words in a line, have them in like a criminal movie style lineup with a whole bunch of different sets of values, and the people closest to you should be able to pick out which one's you. That's what values should be.
We should try that after this.
I think I'm very true to my purpose and I've done some work on it personally. I think you're right, you need to be still. If you're just going day to day, you're not going to find your purpose. You need to spend time to find your purpose and then that instills in everything you do and you just flow for all.
And the ironic thing, you tell me if you agree with this, Rex, is it's really difficult to find your purpose when you're chasing it.
That's why you got to be still. You can't go chasing.
It's really difficult. You can't force it. And it's like values, you can't force them.
But I think that the work I did, it was quite simple. You just kind of list some questions, you go through this questionnaire, and it kind of screams out at you.
It can do. I mean, the exercise that I actually did when I really sort of come to understand this. It was like 3 days after my old man passed away, and I was sat and I was still. My mum was in hospital getting cancer treatment herself as well. So I was at the family home by myself, super quiet. And that always makes you reflect on stuff and whatnot, right? And I came across this exercise that Gary Keller, Keller Williams fame over in the US, he put out this exercise around values, and it's like, and I actually have adopted it and just tweaked it a little bit in a workbook that's about to come out that's in alignment with this. And there's a massive amount of words, and you've just got to sit with each one for a period of time. And then the first job is to cross off half of them. And then you go, and then you come back, and then you've got to cross off another half of them. And there's loads of words there. And then eventually you come up with the top 10, right? After a few sort of cycles through the wash. And when I did it the first time, so beforehand, I had words like ambition and discipline and all that sort of stuff. But when I did this exercise, the 3 that came out at that time were connection, fun, and simplicity, which was so completely different to the words that I had for ambition on my website of my auction business. And as soon as I realized how different they were, I was like, I'm living a lie.
But don't you think your words could be different based in the position that you're in? Like when you're at work, when I'm at work, I'm 3 words. When I'm at home, I would be a completely different set of words. When I'm with my friends, it just depends on what's being brought out in you, don't you think?
Look,
when I'm at work, I'm structured, I'm ambitious.
Like values and
motivated.
purposes are the same regardless. If it's true to you, it's the same.
I think that different areas of your life bring out, I think that we're so multifaceted and we carry with us a pretty large set of values, and depending on where we are in any particular time, we have different values that we bring to the table. Like I said, at work, I'm ambitious, motivated, and a leader. When I'm at home, I'm slightly more.
But the core of you is the same. The core value
is different. I think the difference and the confusion that a lot of people have with that, because I agree, and you have different personas, you have different gears that you go into depending on the situation and the position that you're in, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference though, and I think this is where a lot of people get confused, is there's a difference between skills and values.
True.
Being a leader is a skill. It's not a value.
Yeah, true.
Right? Being a part of being a leader is being absolutely congruent and true to your own DNA. And then being able to attract the tribe that's going to want to follow you as a leader off the back of that, right? In my humble opinion. And I got really confused. So going back to your original question about the people that you meet and the confusion and the uncertainty around their purpose, this is part of the problem, is the fact that, and I can say that because I've lived it, right? I've lived it. And now I can truly say hand on heart that my purpose is to make success more accessible. I have loads of people, like what you said at the start of this show, Rex, like I do a whole bunch of stuff, and loads of people look at me and go, gee, Andy, you do heaps, man. And I do in that respect, in terms of the application, but my purpose is the same across every single one. So to me, I'm only doing one thing. I'm just doing it a whole bunch of different ways. And so the saying, you could say similar to this, right? So you will still have, even though at home, the nurturing sort of motherly part of you might come out a little bit more, I can bet you bottom dollar that you ask any of your staff and they'll say that one of the first things they say is that you care. But it comes out differently because it's your professional sense, right? Does that make sense?
Very true, yeah.
And so that's where I think we get it twisted, is that we feel that we have to have a different who we are, or a different set of values based on our professionalism to who we are as a person. And I think that's where it creates a real drama, where this whole work-life balance bollocks is just, it's just causing so much tension and anxiety between who people are and what people do. And I feel that that's creating so much fractious thinking in how we move forward as human beings. Whereas if you can bring it down to a simplicity that allows you to be who you are 24/7, the way you apply it is different according to where you are, the environment you're in, situation you're in and whatnot. Geez, life gets easier. Life gets easier and it becomes a lot more fun, and it gets a lot easier. It just does. because you don't have to rewire yourself every 5 minutes. You just be who you are.
So this comes back to intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, Andy, and I want you to simplify that to the audience. What is intrinsic and what is extrinsic motivation? And then how can we apply both of those to our day-to-day lives?
Right.
Sorry, Rex, did I interrupt?
That's okay. I'm just going to...
I could hear the breathe coming through and he was about to ask, but I interrupted him with speech.
no. I was like, you're drilling him some hard questions, start with.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it.
I
You
love
know
how
it.
you're simplifying everything.
No, you love it, mate.
You know, your skills are showing.
Well, you talk a lot about it in the book as well, but I think I want to start by defining it. What is intrinsic? What is extrinsic?
So, talk about the early 70s for being a boom for psychological studies. In 1971, there was a study done by a guy called Decci, all right, who really drilled into what they called self-determination theory, okay? And what he deduced from all the various studies that he did was there's 3 components to it, all right? Autonomy, being you feel that you can complete tasks by yourself, you don't need help, you know, you can rock and roll. It's pretty self-explanatory. Second one's competence, which again is pretty self-explanatory. You got to know what you're doing, right? In order to be confident, you need to be competent first, right? You can't be confident without competence, otherwise you're just arrogant, right? Because you can't back it up. You can't back up what you're saying. And the third one's the tricky one. It's called relatedness. Now I've had depending on the time of day, my interpretation definition of relatedness is altered just slightly. But what I've sort of settled on with it is basically how much whatever it is that you're doing relates to who you are as an individual, okay? And that third component is the tricky one for most people. The autonomy and the competence, again, relatively straightforward, relatively black and white, right? But if you're in a role, if you're doing something, or if you're going down a path, and relating back to flow, where it doesn't feel like a part of you, then you are going to forever be watching a motivational video on YouTube, right? Whereas, like for me, in an auctioneering sense, to just put an easy example on it, I can be feeling rough as guts. I can have flu, I can have cold, I can feel like absolute, you know, the worst of the worst. I know my adrenaline will get me through those auctions. I will rock and roll. I might collapse after, but because of that self-determination theory and the relatedness to my purpose, to what I'm doing, and the application of my purpose to what I'm doing, you'll find the energy. You'll find it. And now, extrinsic or external motivation is something that we all need from time to time, because not all tasks that we do we can relate to. So for example, going to the gym, right? Unless it has become habitualized, unless it's become an actual habit that being absolutely clean and healthy all the time is part of you, you are going to have moments where you need external motivation or a kick up the arse from an accountability partner in order to get your backside into the gym, right? Going to the gym is something that humans don't find natural. It's not a natural thing for human beings, all right? Because back in the day, caveman days, it was a necessity thing. They weren't fit because they just started wall balling rocks and stuff like that, right?
Their reflection in the ice.
Exactly. You know what I mean? They did it because of the fact they had to throw a rock at something before it ate them, right? So it was a necessity thing. But now that fitness thing has not become an absolute necessity for the safety and the actual vitality of our the vital nature of our lives. It's not nature anymore, right? And that's why for a lot of people, getting to the gym is really, really difficult because of the fact that they feel that they should, right? Gotta go to the gym. But there's that third bit of self-determination theory missing, which is the relatedness.
Yeah.
And again, because I've understood that and I've studied that, it started to help me connect the dots between my DNA and whatever the task is that I know is going to be good for me, but doesn't feel natural, right? So now from a fitness point of view, again, I'm not perfect. I have plenty of nights where I can't be bothered. Like last night, I was up till 2 a.m. doing presentations and things like that. And I hadn't done my workout yet. And I was like, nah, I'm carked. I can't do it. So I actually got in front of my weight at 2:15 or whatever it was. Hey, Andy, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Go bed. So I did.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be times where it can't happen. But now, because of the fact that I've managed to create that connection between the relatedness of the task and the relatedness of me as a human being and how I want my future self to become and my future identity, the intrinsic motivation is that little bit easier. I'm not missing as many sessions now, which is cool. And so that third piece is what we all need to spend a lot more time on.
Makes so much sense. I like that.
Can we talk more about other parts of you? In addition to the book, you're also a trainer. Can we talk about your courses?
Yeah. So coaching was something that I was avoiding like the plague.
Yeah.
Why?
Was it not related?
Didn't feel related.
Yeah, didn't feel right.
Didn't feel right. I didn't know at the time, and you know what I mean? But it's something that I have grown to understand that I need to do. I think it's a duty for me to do that now.
It's giving back.
It's giving back. It's giving back for sure. I just feel that, again, because I now own who I am and what I am, and I own what I'm not now, which is critical, I know how best to help people. I think the reason why it didn't feel relatable to me is the fact that I was trying to be everything to everyone. Like in 2019, at one stage I'd had my auctioneering business. I'd started a small marketing business as well that I eventually sold in 2021. I had a community-based business as well, right? Which was helping communities and charities and whatnot to make more money and do better things and all that sort of jazz. And I was just trying to be too many things to too many people. And I got confused, right? And I lost track of who I was and my purpose and all that sort of stuff. So now I own all that. I feel a lot more comfortable being all that, being that one thing for all people. And I'm comfortable. I know it sounds really cliched and very Instagrammy, but I'm so comfortable with the people that want to be with me and the people that don't want to be with me. I put up this reel, hilariously. I put up this very short reel that my mate Greg took of me, just slamming the hammer down on an auction, right? And I do it in my own way, right? It's a bit unique. I did it by accident first off, and it just sort of stuck. It's like a baseball swing. And I've had that many people, because admittedly my trousers were hitched up and they looked like I was wearing kiddie trousers at the time. Wasn't ideal. And yeah, and
you are wearing socks.
Problem with long legs, right? But I've had that many people throw that many derogatory comments at me, but because back in the day I would have been I'd have been a nightmare. I might have even got rid of it. Now I'm having fun with them all, and it's hilarious. The amount of real estate people that have seen my reactions and liked them. I've had so many likes to my reactions to derogatory comments off real estate people, which has been a really interesting lesson for me, because I'm like, that's the example I'm setting. That's the example I need to be for people. But also the people that have sent the derogatory comments in, I've actually had quite a lot of them laugh and go, dude, you've got me.
Yeah.
Or, man, what a comeback. Or, man, he did not go there. Love it. Amazing. You've got a follower in me now.
Yeah.
But confidence is, when you're extremely confident with who you are, it's very difficult for someone to offend or upset you.
Well, you're not offended.
And it's so much easier to make fun of yourself and make light of yourself when you're extremely confident and proud of who you are.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've hit that point where you know who you are now. You're proud of who you are. You know how far you've come. You know exactly where you are in the world. No matter what anyone says, derogatory or not, you can make light of it, because it's not going to hit you or hurt you, because you know who you are and you're confident and you're proud of that person.
It's taken a long time to get there though, Shan.
It does.
And I think we kind of get it the wrong way round a little bit, because a lot of us tend to talk about confidence first. You can't be truly confident in who you are unless you know who you are.
That's correct.
And that's where I think we've got it twisted a little bit, particularly in real estate. Because there's one thing knowing, there's another thing doing. And lots of people know. But in order to be able to do to the best of your ability, you have to have the competence and the relatedness.
Well, the problem with the real estate industry, Andy, is that it's ego and image obsessed. And a lot of young agents coming in, even though they might not have that ego or that image, they're sort of forced to have that because you need to look the part. Do you agree with that?
I agree that that's a perception. I don't agree with, I agree that that's true. But there are more and more examples coming out of people that have just owned who they are and they're making waves.
They're the ones, yeah.
I think most successful agents are confident in themselves and they're just trying to satisfy their clients. They don't care about perception of others.
But
I think it's guys that I deal with a broad range. Like I deal with, and over 7 years, I've dealt with every type of director, every type of agent. You know, it's been a very vast
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And I've seen the best of them and I've seen the worst of them. I've seen the ego crazy. I've seen the really down to earth. And I always find that the most successful agent, the most successful business owner, if they walk past you in the street, you wouldn't think that you wouldn't know. I know what their net worth is. I know what businesses they have. And the ones that are literally financed to their ears and drowning in debt are walking around in nothing wrong with Gucci, Balenciaga, every brand under the sun, because they're obsessed with ego and they're obsessed with image. They're not the ones that have any clue of who they are.
And it's a really interesting point. And you are going to be one of those people that does get to observe these people at the best and their worst, right? Which is really interesting. It's something that really got brought to my attention in 2020, and I won't, name the period of time because we know what we're talking about here. But as soon as that first lockdown hit, I was on the phone till 3 a.m., right? With agents that felt like until then were made of Teflon. But as soon as their identity got threatened because they couldn't do their job, they fell apart. And the real scary thing is people are attaching their identity to what they do, as opposed to attaching what they do to their identity. Wrong way around.
Yeah.
And the initial way of attaching your identity to what you do is a very, very short-term win. It's a very short-term solution. If you want,
not long-term happiness.
Nah, absolutely not. And interestingly, I'm actually doing it a little bit later on today. I'm doing a talk about success leading to happiness or happiness leading to success. Which one comes first? And it's a really, really interesting study that was done in the US military, where 997,000 soldiers, so nearly 1 million soldiers, got studied in 2021. It's a very recent study. And it was shown and proved that those soldiers that were happy in who they were, where they were, what they were 4 times more likely to be more effective on missions. 4 times than those were there because they felt they had to be.
Not surprised.
And it's not surprised, but to see it on that bigger study, on that serious a give.
But it goes back to a purpose.
Did you see though, do you know what the most highly rated career for happiness was?
What?
Do you know?
No.
Firefighters. Because their purpose and their career was so intertwined. And to obviously be a firefighter, you need to go through a very serious, it's a pretty hectic process where they get psychologically tested, physically tested. So you have to, your body and your mindset has to relate or you won't get into the brigade. They're the happiest because they go to work every day and it aligns with their purpose.
And it's in an extreme case because of the fact that they have their lives put in danger on the regular. But even then, it's still very much aligned with who they are and what they do.
Do you know what their salary is? The average salary for Australian firefighters is?
What?
75 grand.
That's bullshit.
No, but what this study was showing was that happiness and money are not necessary. Everyone relates happiness to money. And would be ridiculous to say that money hasn't brought us happiness. You can't be.
It gives you options.
It gives you options. You can't be on a yacht in Italy and not being happy, right? It'd be very difficult to do that.
A lot of people are in yachts in Italy that are not happy.
Okay. But I knew you were gonna argue that point. But what I'm saying is that I think that we rely on salary so much as a source of happiness. Once I achieve this much money, once I have this much money, it's going to make me happier. It's going to make me happier. Whereas you read these studies with the happiest people on earth, and I think it was firefighters, and the second one was farmers. And they earn very little for very hard work.
I was the hardest working people ever.
And it's interesting because the suicide rate was quite high, but the happiness level was the highest in careers, firefighters and farmers.
It's because, with farmers, I have so much respect for farmers because...
But it's who they are.
Exactly.
They are. Their
it
job
goes down to your value. They're aligned with their values.
Exactly.
Once you're aligned, you're happy.
That's exactly right.
So it feels like and on that thing of, forever chasing, right? Again, one of my favorite philosophers, who's passed away now, a guy called Alan Watts, British guy, who was one of the main instigators of bringing Eastern philosophies into Western awareness and Western cultures. And he talks about how even the language of the English language that we use shows us that we only have the present, right? Because he says that, but when you think about, I'll get there, or by the time I get this, or by the time I get there, by the time you get there, it comes here. There doesn't exist. in vocabulary terms, right? You can never get there, because by the time you get there, by definition, you're actually here. I always had a massive problem with chasing satisfaction. Massive. It always put me into holes. Whenever I achieved anything,
I had that feeling.
whenever I achieved anything, never got me anywhere. Never got. It felt empty.
It's been to holes.
It felt empty, right?
You're an idiot. He's an idiot.
I'm trying to remain professional.
He's an actual idiot.
I'm trying to, but when again, when my old man, and I hate to bring it back to my old man passing away and try and sound morbid in that, but I was so grateful for the experience, because he unfortunately had a stroke which took away the last 3 weeks of his life from a speech point of view, right?
Oh.
And I was listening to him. I was in the room in the palliative care ward, and I was listening to him breathe. And the lesson that taught me was that there's no point chasing satisfaction, because until that final whistle is blown, there's always time. There's always time to score a goal, concede a goal, get better, get worse, improve, lose, right? And so while you've still got time in the game of life, you've got to keep playing. And you can only look at, you can only decide when you're satisfied when you can look at the body of work in its entirety. Now, you can have micro sort of senses of satisfaction as you go through life, but I call them contentment. It's more for me, am I content with the body of work that I've done in a certain project, right? Am I content with the effort that I put in? All right? Because if I am, it's all good. But in terms of being satisfied, for me, it's a bit more of a finite term. And so once I'd let go of that absolute obsession with chasing satisfaction, it did allow me to be a little bit more present. And as a result of that, again, my game started to improve in life, whether it was business, me personally, fitness, health, whatever. So that sort of balance between setting goals, because I am still a fan of setting goals and looking at the future and planning ahead and all that. So I'm still a big fan of that. But once you've set them goals, you can only focus on what you can do now to get closer to it. So for me, goals need to come with, and I've written it in there, goals need to come with the balance of understanding that you can only be the aggregation of the incremental gains that you make. So Dave Brailsford, Team Sky, an incredible operator, and he talked about, I can't go changing this cycling team into being world beaters by making wholesale changes, but I can look at every single little component of the team and improve it by 1%, right? He even looked at the pillows, tested the pillows, studied the pillows that the riders slept on. He made 1% improvements on every little component, like the zips on their outfits, the seats, the sprint, everything. And the next year they won Tour de France, and then they went on to win it 3 out of the next 4 tours.
Fascinating.
And it's not because they focused on the goal. The goal was always to win the Tour de France.
Yeah, it was the minute things.
It was the minutiae of their improvements that they made every single day. So they set the goal, but then they focused on getting their shit done in that one moment, in that one point of their lives. And as a result of that, the success just went bananas. They became one of the most successful sports teams
I've read a lot about that. Really
in history. And so if you can understand that, yes, you need to set the path. Once you've set the path and you can see the path and you've plotted the course, all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. You know, no one can skip, right? You've got to put one foot in front of the other. And that's where fitness to me has become a lot easier, because of the fact that I used to be very detrimental to I was very self-derogatory when it came to my appearance and my performance and so on and so forth from a fitness point of view. But now I'm like, look, as long as I can improve by 1% every day, I know I'll get there. And as a result, having done that over a few years now, I'd never been, until last year, I was never over 100 kilos and fit. It was, if I was over 100 kilos, that I was warning signs, like everything's going to pot. And, you know, and I almost got to my heaviest whilst being at my fittest, which for me, like if I'd have set that as a goal, it would have overawed me and I would have ended up going to shit. And looking back at previous goals, I probably did cause myself damage by setting goals like that, right? And focusing too much on what's over there. Whereas set the course, plot the path, and then focus on taking one step at a time. And by the time you look up,
I love it.
You'll be at the horizon.
Set the course, plot the path. I love
Set
it.
the course, plot the path.
Andy, we could have you here all day, but Chev's behind the camera telling me this, which is telling me that it's time up. But this book is absolutely, I mean, I actually started to read it, and unfortunately I sat on a redback spider and ended up in hospital. So that's actually a true story that happened to me last week. Not that this podcast episode's about me, but that did happen. That I will absolutely finish it. But Andy, this is, and I know the word raw can be a topic of contention with you. But
Not anymore.
Raw person, because you don't filter what you say. It's genuine and it's coming from a place of lived experience. And I think that's really incredible, and I think you've created something you should be so exceptionally proud of. I'm really excited to finish reading it. I'm super excited for book 2 and to see where the rest of the path leads you. So thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much for having me again, gang. I mean, being associated and connected with people like this, I mean, they do say that you are the sum of who you surround yourself with. So I'm incredibly grateful for having you in my life, for sure.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you, Andy. Well, thank you guys so much. We'll leave all the information about Andy's book at the bottom of the episode.
And the training and the coaching.
And the coaching. And we'll see you on the next episode of Real Estate Renovators. See you for now.